Hi, I'm Cassie. We're going to be talking about all the books that I read this year. Hello. Okay, so this is going to be maybe a little bit of a longer video, but I thought it would be fun to kind of recap everything that I've read so far in 2023. So we are 5.5 months because I'm filming this in the middle of May. Planning to post it closer to June probably because that's technically the halfway point. But right now, as of like May 11th, I think, I have read 92 books and I'm like partially through my 93rd. So there are a lot. Yeah, I have had a pretty good reading year. The last month and a half to 2 months have not been so great. I've talked about it before, but living in your car is not the most stable way to live. And I apparently need at least, even if everything else is stressful, I need to feel safe before I can read anything. So we have like these window covers now that make me feel a lot better. And I am able to read a little bit more now. And then obviously we are right now in a hotel. So I'm able to read a lot more. But otherwise, yeah, I probably would have hit 100 by now if not for that. So I'm not going to talk too much about each one. I'm just going to say a little bit, and some of them, if they're like in a series, I'm just going to combine them and say a little bit about it because I don't want to give any spoilers. I've also probably talked about a lot of these in some of my other videos because I started this channel in like February, I believe. So I feel like you could just go back, and if you want to have like full thoughts and watch one of my other videos maybe, yeah. I did not think to make a note of any stats before I started this, so I don't know how many pages I read or anything. Oh, actually, I think Goodreads has the like year in review thing. So let me cheat and go look there real fast. This isn't really working as well as I'd hoped. Okay, so in case you didn't know, Goodreads does like a year in books thing, and it's like a little recap of everything you read in the year, and they usually share it with you at the end of each year or like the very beginning of the following year for the previous year. But there's a little tiny cheat. So if you go into the URL and you just change it to whatever year you want, you can look at whatever year you want. So I just switched my 2022 year in review, which you can find through the My Books section. If you are logged into your account and then you click My Books and then you scroll all the way down on like the left hand side, there's something that says year in books, and that will be your like whole year recap. That's the thing I'm talking about. So click that and then change the year in the top little bar thing. I'm doing a lot of hand motions for somebody who could just like show a screenshot or something, but anyway, do that and then you can see all of the books and your stats and everything like that. So I've read 23,607 pages, which that's pretty good. I mean, that's really good. Like over 23,000 pages, like dang, that's a lot. Cool. I did read a lot of like manga and a lot of novellas this year, so it probably would be higher if they had been just like straight novels, but whatever. It's not a contest. We're just reading to read, so we don't care. But it's fun sometimes to track. So 92 books, over 23,000 pages, and I don't know how that breaks down into words. It probably doesn't matter. We're not going to do that. That's too much. All right, so let's get started. The first book I read this year was actually a reread, and that was Mooncakes. And I really love this the first time I read it like a year or two ago. And when I saw that it was on sale during like Barnes & Noble's 50% off hardcover thing that they had over the holiday last year, I was so excited and I scooped it up. I needed to own it and I love it so much. It's really cute. It's like witchy. It has like a really cute relationship and it's pretty diverse, and there's like a lot of like inclusive stuff in it that I really enjoyed. So I would highly recommend this if you haven't read it. I loved it. So cute. And then I read A House at the Bottom of a Lake, and I liked most of this, but I did not like the ending. I gave this 3 stars, I think maybe 3.5. It was very like dreamlike and very cool and like underwatery, but it was also really creepy, but I don't know, the ending really just did not land for me. I did not like how ambiguous it was. I didn't like how nothing was really explained. And I just felt like the characters were also like very convenient. Like the things that were happening felt very convenient. Like they didn't feel like things that actual people would do or pursue. But I mean, that doesn't always have to, but I mean, a character's actions don't always have to be like super believable, especially like when you're involving things that are not of this world. So I totally get the people who do like this. And I liked most of it, but just the ending for me, no. Then I read the first volume of Blood on the Tracks, and I really liked this. I liked the ending of this, but up until the ending, I was honestly pretty bored, and I had like seen people rave about this one and say how good it is. So I was honestly a little bit underwhelmed and like slightly disappointed, but the ending definitely intrigued me. I was like, wait, what? And I definitely want to read more, but for some reason these cost more than like, I don't know, Chainsaw Man, for example. So, and they're less fun to me. So yeah, my library just doesn't really have a lot of manga, so if I don't like get it on Kindle or buy it, I don't usually get it. So I have to be like very particular about what I buy or what I read. I don't know that I'll probably buy more of these, at least unless I get like another gift card or something, like, but it's just not something that I think I would outwardly go and choose to do or buy. If my library ended up having this though, I would absolutely binge it and definitely see what the fuss is about, because the ending again did intrigue me, but nobody wants to read like 200 pages of something to be bored until the very end, you know? Like I want something to happen to keep my attention throughout, and the ending being like really cool is very interesting, but you know. I think I'm actually going to just lump all of the manga into one section, so I'm just going to go through and talk about all of the ones I read now. Like, so from this point forward, the books are no longer going to be in order of me reading them. They're just going to be grouped. Yeah. So I read volumes 2, 3, and 4 of Happy Sugar Life, which I will just say that if you are going to read this one, you should definitely look into the content warnings for this one and check those out before buying it, because, or before reading, check those out before reading it, because I didn't know exactly what this one was before going into it. And when I figured it out, I was like, oh, what? Like, there are some questionable things, like problematic questionable things, not by like the author, but the characters, the questionable characters. And for people who are like maybe easily triggered or traumatized by certain things, I would want you to practice caution, because it has to do with some weird stuff. Like it's kind of gory too, and a little bit graphic. So yeah, there is an anime of it, and I've watched that, and I love the theme song so much. It's like one of my favorite theme songs for a show, but the show has the same problematic things as the book. So yeah. I read volumes 2 and 3 of Jujutsu Kaisen, and I just think this one's not for me. I don't know, they're just, it feels like a bunch of boys just doing boy stuff, like, and slightly supernatural. I don't know. I am not super interested in anything that's happening, and honestly, I'm like kind of like just trying to get through them because I have them, and those were gifted to me, so if the person who gifted those to me watches this, sorry. But I don't like them so far. I don't really like them. I've never seen the show, so I don't know if maybe I would like that more. If anybody has seen the show, or maybe if you read the books and you like them more later, let me know if I should continue for any reason. But as it stands, I've read the first few and I'm not into it, so yeah. Then I read volumes 10 and 11 of Sweat and Soap, which, okay, so most of the manga I read or anime I watch or like anything like that has to have like a supernatural element, or like a lot of like gore, not like graphic for the sake of being graphic, but just like fighting scenes and stuff like that interests me. Or like if they're like big robots, that's also cool. I just like what I like, I don't know. But if it's just like kind of slice of life stuff, it's usually harder for me to be interested in it, especially if it's like romantic. So for me to really love this series and to highly recommend it, please know that I'm doing this like, and I really mean it. This is one of the cutest series that I've ever read. It's so weird, but it's adorable, and the relationship dynamic in it is really, really sweet. Like, they're very communicative, they're very like loving, they're both very weird and like have like different quirks and stuff, but they like work them out and they like accept each other, and it's just very sweet. Okay, so to rewind a little bit as well, because I'm not going to talk about volumes 10 and 11 because it's pretty far into the series, but this is about a girl who has like an issue with like her body. Like, she sweats a lot, and she was made fun of a lot as a child, and so she's very self-conscious about like her sweating. She does all these like preventative things to make sure she doesn't sweat, and she's like very worried about like smelling bad and stuff like that. So she works for this company, this like perfume body soap company. I think it's soap. And by chance, while she's working, she just happens to meet the guy who either owns the company or is like the one who's specifically in charge of making all the scents, or both. And she like gets like really nervous and everything, and he like sniffs her and is like obsessed for some reason, just like with her smell, like, and her as a person. And he just like is like super into it, and she like makes him want to like make all these perfume body washes and smells and stuff. And she's like always like, no, like, can you stop smelling me? Like, that's weird, and I am very self-conscious. And he's like, no, like, let me smell you, like, I love it. And it's just, it's so funny, but he's like very respectful about it too. Like, it's not like he does anything like against her consent. Anyways, it does get like kind of spicy as well. Like, there are spicy scenes in the series. And yeah, I don't know what else I can say, because it sounds weird when you try to explain what it is, but I swear to you, it's like surprisingly endearing and very sweet. I love it enough to have read 11 volumes, so yeah. Then I read Spy Family, and I think I read volumes 1 and 2, and these are okay. I like these. I like the premise, I like the characters, I like it, but it's a little slow, I think, for me. And maybe that's just because we're in the very beginning, so there's a lot of explaining and a lot of like setup that they're doing currently regarding the characters. I don't know, it's just a little bit too slow to like hold my attention super well, which kind of sucks because so many people talk about how much they like it. I have not watched the show, so I think I might start doing that, because I think I might like it if I can watch it and it's a little faster. This is about a guy who has to like make a fake family for a mission that he's on, and so he like adopts this little girl, and he doesn't know, but the girl's actually psychic, and so she knows what's happening and what he's doing, but he doesn't know she knows. And then he also has to find a wife, and so he finds like a wife and she's actually like an assassin, and he doesn't know she's an assassin, and she doesn't know he's a spy, but the little girl knows both things. And so like their family dynamic is just really cute. I like all of the characters, but again, like there's just it's a little bit too slow for me to get like fully invested when I'm reading it. So again, I'm just gonna watch the show and see if I like that better. But overall, I would recommend this. I think it's really cute. It's just not something that like I super love at this point. Okay, but speaking of things I do super love, I read volume 6 through 11 of Chainsaw Man, and it's my favorite. I love it so much. When I try to explain this to people, I always get derailed because there are so many different things going on. This is basically about a world in which like devils of anything can be made if people fear it enough. So there's like a gun devil, there is like a bomb devil, all kinds of things can have devils. There are also like fiends who are like kind of like devil people that have like taken over other people, like actual humans. And then there's like a main character, and he's like a very poor dude who grew up like super, super poor and like has had nothing good happen to him basically his entire life. And he's basically indebted to these people because of a debt that his like grandfather, uncle, or somebody else left when they died. So he's like forced into working for these people, and he does so much like life risking work just to make like pennies basically. They take so much of what he would make from like contracts and stuff he does, and he lives off of like stale old bread and garbage and stuff. And also he has a little dog who is a chainsaw devil. His little dog is so cute and is my favorite. Do you see what I mean though? You see how derailed I'm getting and how I keep going off on different things? This is what I mean. This is what happens every time I talk about this. I love it so much. So anyway, basically this guy is trying to like find and defeat devils, and he gets brought on by like this Secret Service type company who they work to save people and like kill devils and hunt down like the overall big bad guy, which is a gun devil. Also guns are like banned, by the way, because of the gun devil, because and then there's like there's a bunch of backstory too about like what happened and all these people dying, and like there's just so much to it. There's so much to it, and I wish I could just convey all of the things I love about it. I will say, if you just only read the first volume, Denji, like the main character, he's kind of immature and like really like, he's obsessed with like boobs. Like that's his main goal. He just wants to like touch boobs. But again, if you can overlook that and you can like grow to love him as a character, it's just so good. If there's one thing you take from this video, and I'm making this so long on accident, but it's please just read and watch Chainsaw Man, because I love it. I love it. The show is actually so good. I've watched the first season, and the second season should be coming out later this year, I think. And then also volume 12, I believe, is coming out later this year. I'm not ever usually caught up on anything, like ever, but I am completely caught up on Chainsaw Man, so I just really love it. All right, so moving on. I read I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, and this is like a little bit like a romance thing, and I know what I said before when I was talking about Sweat and Soap, and this is supposed to be very sad, so I can do like slice of life romance stuff if it's also very sad. I like to cry. So yeah, this one did make me cry, but this one took me by surprise. This has a twist in it that I was not expecting. I highly recommend this, even if you read what it's about. I'll just tell you because it doesn't give the twist away, like the synopsis or anything. It blew my mind. But so this is about a girl who's dying because she's sick, and she writes about it in her journal, but she doesn't tell her friends. She doesn't want people to know because she doesn't want anybody to treat her differently. So she's very, very sick, and she accidentally leaves her journal one day, like on a bench, and a guy picks up thinking it's a book, and he's like, "What's this?" And he starts reading, and he's like, "Oh, fuck." And then the girl finds him and is like, "You took my journal." So he knows who she is and that she's sick, and now she knows that somebody knows her secret. So finally she has somebody to do like her bucket list things with. So she's like, "Hey dude, like, you know, don't tell anybody, let's go do some stuff." And so they go off on like little adventures and doing things, and I'm not going to say anything else about what happens because again, it took me by surprise, but I really liked this. It made me cry. It's very good, and it has like a really sweet message, I think, toward the end. So yeah, definitely recommend it. Don't be intimidated by how long it is, because this one's actually like a very thick book, but it's worth it. It's really good. And again, it's manga, so it's like pictures. You can just read it and like look at it at the same time, you know, like it's faster than if it were just like a really thick regular book. I read the first 6 volumes of The Promised Neverland, and I've heard that the show's not good, but the books are supposed to be very good. The books are okay. I found them personally, like the pacing was weird and they were a little bit repetitive. Like something would happen and then like the next chapter is explaining the thing that just happened again as a recap. I don't need a recap chapter to chapter in the same book. Like that's silly to me. No offense to the people on it, working on it, writing it, whatever. My favorite thing about it was the art and the overall premise, but not the execution. So I will not continue this, and I probably won't watch the show. But the first one really like shocked me, and I honestly don't know who I would recommend this to. So yeah, I read volumes 2 and 3 of Persona 4, and I read volume 1 last year, like toward the end of last year, so I didn't need to do a reread. I've played the game. I love the game, so I thought I would love the books, and I do love the books. I don't know what else to say. If you have played the game, it's pretty much just novelization in manga form, so manganization. Is there a word for that? I don't know. Whatever. It's really good. It's basically everything that happens in the game. I will actually say that they leave a few things out to make it a little bit more like PG friendly, I think. I don't know how to explain without giving spoilers away for what happens in the game. I mean, the game's old, you know, so whatever. But yeah, if you like the game, I would highly recommend the books because they're fun. This isn't manga, but I read Lore Olympus Volume 3, and I really liked it. I think I liked this one more than I liked number 2, but not more than I liked Volume 1. So take that as you will. I'm not really going to talk about what this one's about because like everybody knows what this is about. It's like the webcomic, so you can go online and read it right now for free if you wanted to. But I like having the bind-ups from like the Barnes & Noble special edition covers or whatever. I've gotten those as gifts for like Christmas and stuff and my birthday, so I just continue getting those. I don't actually read it online. I don't know. I don't like reading stuff at my computer, so... I read 2 books by Junji Ito. I read the collection Smashed and also Tombs. And I liked Smashed a lot more than I liked Tombs, but I did like Tombs. It just doesn't have as many stories in it, so I feel like there isn't as much opportunity for it to be a favorite collection because there are fewer things in it. And I did, I think, talk about both of these in previous videos, so I'm not going to go too much into them beyond what I've already said. And the last like graphic novel or illustrated or manga or whatever thing that I read this year so far is Killing Stalking Volume 1. This book is not worth the time it would take me to describe what it's about, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to say I did not like it. I think it was stupid, and I think it was boring, and I think it was dumb. Okay, look, that was unnecessarily harsh, and no offense to the person who writes it, but sometimes, you know, do you remember being in like middle school or like high school, and there are always like these like little kids who are like obsessed with trying to be like super extreme, and they like try to say the most outlandish thing because they want everybody to look at them and be like, I cannot believe you just said that, you know? And it's usually like offensive, stupid, dumb stuff that nobody wants to hear. This book felt like that to me. I said I was too harsh, and then I feel like I made it worse. I'm just trying to convey that I did not like this. This is like extreme horror. It's like the worst part of a Law & Order SVU episode from the perspective of one of the bad guys. Like, it's just, no, I'm sorry. Anybody who says they like this, I'm so sorry, but no. It's gonna be a no for me. Hard pass. I did not like it, and I will not be reading more. Okay, so back to the actual books. I mean, they were all books, but you know what I mean. Like, back to the books with writing. All right, so moving on to the rest of this list. This year, I started my Anita Blake reread, and I am so happy that I did because I'm loving it so much. I'm not vlogging this just because I figured nobody would care, but I started rereading the series from book 1, and I'm on book 8 right now, and I am obsessed. Like, I read these when I was like 15 or 16, and okay, so I can't even tell you how much I'm liking them. Like, okay, well, I'll tell you one thing. So when I was a teenager, when I was in high school, I had a 4th period science class, and I've got like this weird logical brain, but I am not good at math and I am not good at science. Like, I like the idea of both of those things, but I just cannot get into them. Like, my brain just does not like it. Like, my brain just won't do it. Like, try as I might, but no. So I had a 4th period science class, and my teacher was absolutely tired of me because I was also a class clown and like super hyperactive and like just always into everybody's business and very talkative and very loud and just so annoying. I was like a nightmare, truly. So my teacher would get fed up and like kick me out of class. And so she would be like, go to the library, like go to second lunch. Our school was decently sized, so there were 2 lunches because like all of the kids couldn't go to one lunch. It was too many kids. I had first lunch and then science class. When there was second lunch, she would kick me out. I'd go to second lunch, and I remember at the end of second lunch, all of that is just to say that at the end of second lunch one day, I found Narcissus in Chains, which is book like 11 or 10 of the Anita Blake series, and I had no idea what it was, but it looked spicy, and I was like, what? What is this about? So I got so excited for it, and I was, okay, also sorry, but I was a poor kid and I couldn't afford a lot of stuff, so if I found a book abandoned, like laying on a chair, I was gonna keep it. Like, it wasn't a library book or anything like that, and there was no name. I looked, there was no name. I would have dropped it off and lost and found, maybe, if there had been a name. Anyway, the point is, there was no name, and so I kept the book, and I brought it home, and I started reading it literally that day on the bus on the ride home, and I was just like, whoa, this is juicy. What the heck? Like, I was so into it. Like, there were like werewolves and vampires and were-leopards and like, just say less. Like, I was here for it. Like, I immediately went to Borders and like purchased the rest of the series, and I read them like so much. I would keep up on it, and eventually I did stop because I didn't know the series continued, and when I just recently in January started reading these again, we're on like book 23 or something right now. Like, she's been writing these books for like half of her life, the author. Like, what? Like, how are they even still, like, what? Like, I'm so excited for the ride at this point. So all of that to say that I have read 8, almost 7 fully, and I'm on number 8 of the Anita Blake series. And if you've not read these, I recommend them because they're so much fun. I will say these were written in like the early 90s, and the first few books specifically have a couple of language choices because I have like the older editions of them specifically. I don't know if in the updated editions they changed some of it, but if you have the older editions, there are some language choices that I don't think would be okay today. Just small things that shouldn't be used, especially by like a white lady writing books. But it's not like she's saying them in a way to be like, for example, like the main character will be like, yeah, and then he said this to this cop, and it's like, I didn't need you to repeat it, like, you know what I mean? So it's certain things like that, but they're like, they are spaced out. It's few and far between. Like, it's not like a huge part of the book. Mostly at the point where I'm at, there's like sex and stuff, so if that's what you want to read, the books do get extremely spicy. Once you get to book 10, which is the first one I picked up again, it is like, it's like a one-way ticket to Pound Town. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, from many different people. Like, there is just so much stuff that goes on in these books. Early in the series though, it's very like detective-y and like policey, like not like cops, but like she raises the dead. She's like a necromancer, and she like works as like a reanimator for like this company, but she also like moonlights with like the police to help with like vampire things, because she's also a vampire executioner, like a legal vampire executioner. It's just wild. There's so much to it. She has like 2 boyfriends. Well, she starts with 2 boyfriends, and anyways, yeah, so I read 7 of these this year. Let's move on. If anybody wants me to actually do like an Anita Blake vlog or something, or like a recap of each book, or I don't know, anything to do with that, let me know. I just figured nobody would care. So if anybody does care, tell me that you care, and then I'll do that. Like, I live to serve. I'll do it. We're gonna have to speed this up. I'm taking too long. I'm a rambly ass bitch. Okay, so moving on. I read The Last House on Needless Street. Didn't like it. Sorry. The twist in this is something that bothers me a lot when they use it in genre fiction. I don't think certain things belong in other things as like to be used as a plot device. Like, I feel like there are actual people who have to experience and live these things, and like reading a thing, it's so difficult to explain what I'm trying to say without giving a spoiler. If you have a character that's suffering from something that real life people are suffering from, I think you have to handle it delicately. And I don't think that was done here, regardless of what the author's note says. So that's my own opinion. And it's not one that's shared by a lot of people, but I don't care. I read A Psalm for the Wild Built, and this made me cry, and I loved it, and I made my boyfriend read it, and he loved it, so it's really cute. I've talked about this one in another video too, because I think I did a reading vlog for it, so go check that out. I had an early copy of A Chained Beast, which was a poetry collection, and I did like this, but the formatting was a little bit weird because I got a digital copy of it, and I'm probably going to have to reread it because I don't specifically even remember anything about the poems other than that the formatting on the e-copy was weird. So I remember liking it at the time though, and I did leave a review, so I could go back and look at my review, but this video is already so long, so I don't want to do that. Oh, damn it, I just realized I forgot one of the Junji Ito books, so I read The Liminal Zone also. Whoops. I don't super remember this one, so I don't know if I super liked it. I read it earlier in the year. I do remember this one. I think there are like 4 stories, and I think 2 of the ones I did like, and then 2 of the ones I didn't, or didn't really care for. Should have grouped that with the other ones, but I forgot. Whoops. I read Our Wives Under the Sea, which I really liked. I loved this one, which surprised me because I normally don't like books that are kind of ambiguous and open. And this one was very ambiguous and open. Half of the book stuff is happening that you're just like, what is going on? Like, is this metaphorical? Is this really happening? Like, it's strange, but it was so beautifully written, and just like the vibes of it, and just like the feeling of like melancholy and like, I don't know, not unrequited love, but like love that is lost. It reminded me of like, it has a lot to do with like what it feels like losing somebody you care about a lot, in a way that's completely out of your control and out of their control. Like, I don't know, it reminded me a lot of like maybe suffering when somebody has dementia or like Alzheimer's, and the person and the people around them who love them can't fully reach them and can't get them in a way that they could previously, and that person cannot be gotten and they can't get them as well, you know? Like, I don't know if I'm making sense, but I thought that it was done in a much more metaphorical way here, because the main characters are a woman and her wife goes on this like underwater experimental like mission to see what's like at the like lowest points of the ocean, and there are some really creepy things that happen. Like, this is sort of literary fiction, but it's kind of like literary horror, you know? Like, there were some very scary things, but overall it was like about losing somebody, and it was just sad, and it was beautifully written, and I just liked it. Yeah. I read a couple of thrillers. I read The Villa, and this is like my 2nd or 3rd book by the author. This one surprised me with how much I liked it. Like, I went into it with like pretty low expectations, but I really loved this. It was unique to like a thriller because it kind of had like this, it had like a parallel timeline thing going on where you're reading like from one perspective, but then you're reading like from something in the past. But the one in the past had like a completely different vibe to the one in the present, in the way that it felt like it could have been a different genre altogether almost. More like Daisy Jones and the Six, except if it were like more of a thriller. And I thought it was like really unique. I thought that was really cool. I liked both of the timelines equally. And this is one of those books that's like really thrillerish and creepy, but it's like also very like fun in the sun. I love the combination of those two things, like having like this very vacation-y sort of vibe while also being very threatening. It's so much fun. It's just my jam. I just love it. And I read What Lies in the Woods, and this is by like one of my favorite authors, and I've loved so many other things they've written, but this, despite being one of my most anticipated books of the year, did not land for me. I did not like this. I felt like it was very formulaic as far as adult thrillers go, and the other books I've read by this author are YA and like middle grade, and I've loved them, and I thought they were so interesting, so unique, so unlike other things in the genre that I'd read. And then this one, and I think maybe I just got my hopes too high, because I was really hoping that I would feel that way about this as an adult thriller. Like, whoa, this is like mind-blowing and not like any other adult thriller. And then it was like every other adult thriller. So like I was figuring out what was happening as we were going, because it was like so many other books that I'd read. And I mean, there is something to say for the fact that I read a lot of thrillers, so that could say something for that. I don't know what. But maybe somebody who has like less experience in the genre would like it more, but I just expected more, I think, from who it was written by and what it was. I will still continue to buy their books. I will keep reading them. I still love them, but yeah. Then I reread most of the books in the Every Heart a Doorway series, and that's because I was going to be reading the book that came out in January. And so I usually reread the whole series because a new book for the series comes out every January, and it's just like an annual thing that I do. And I have so much fun doing it, and I love the series. It's my favorite like ever. So yeah, that was very fun. I've talked about it before. I'm not going to bore you with extra like, I'm not gonna bore you with me like word vomiting how much I love it. I'm just gonna say that I love it. And I got my boyfriend to read it, so he's been listening to the audiobooks for it, and he's like on book 4 or 5 maybe now, I don't know, but he's liking it too, so that's fun, because now if I like reference a character or talk about something, he knows what I'm talking about. So yeah. I reread this book called Life as We Knew It, and it's like a post-apocalyptic sort of, well, it like starts before like there's like this bad thing that happens, like the moon moves and is like hit in the sky by like a meteor or something, and is like jolted out of position, and it causes all this disruption to the world, and basically everything like goes down. And so it's kind of like post-apocalyptic, but a lot of the book is before that. I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, I loved this book when I was like 14, and then rereading it, I did not love it. It's a series of 4 books, and I couldn't envision myself continuing. Like, I had planned to read all of them, and then I read this one and I was like, nope. So I packed up the books and was like, nah, I'm done. That's fine. Then I read The Juniper Tree, which is technically a story, but it wasn't part of anything else. Like, it was a standalone thing, like a thin thing that I read. So I logged it on Goodreads. And the reason I read that is because I was also going to be reading, and did read, Juniper and Thorn. And I really liked this. It was very like fairy tale-esque, but it was a little bit too focused on romance for me. I think I would have liked it to be a little bit darker and less romantic, but it was okay. It was fine. And I will read more by the author. It was my first book and I liked it. So I read A Good Idea, which is like a YA thriller, I think it's supposed to be. And I honestly just don't get this, because they tell you who did it in the synopsis and they tell you in the book, and then you spend the whole book trying to figure it out, like to figure out why, but like who cares why at this point? Like, just directly go to the person and ask them, and then when you find out, take their word for it, because they give you the answer and it did not change. Like, I felt like I got the answer and the solution in the middle of the book, and then I just had to sit through the rest of it for what? Why? What was the point? Like, I don't get it. I also don't, the main character was also so selfish. Like, her best friend gave specific wishes for after she died, and then this girl's just like, nah, I don't care about what she wanted. I'm just gonna do what I want because it makes me feel better. Okay, you're the character I'm supposed to like? No, this one didn't do it for me. I didn't like it. I read a short story collection called Out There, and I don't read a lot of single author short story collections, because I find it hard to focus on things that are not longer length. I can sometimes do an anthology, but usually like my attention span, if I read something short, I'm like, okay, I'm done reading. I finished a thing. And no, like it's been like 5 minutes, like you're not done, but I feel finished. So I try not to So I just end up not reading those a lot. I did read this one. It was my first thing that it was the first thing that I've ever read by the author. And I really liked it. It was very weird. It felt like if Lifetime, like, or some kind of romance channel had a baby with the Sci-Fi Channel. Like, it was like a Hallmark version of a Black Mirror episode. Like, I don't exactly know how to explain it. There were some really weird things that I liked, but a lot of it had to do with being a wife or being a mother. And I don't particularly identify to a lot of the things that were in the stories. So for some of them, I was just like, girl, just go. Like, you know, there were some very unique things in this that I did like. And I've mentioned them all in a video, so not to repeat myself, but go watch the other video that I mentioned this book in, because I do talk about the stories that I liked and the different themes and stuff. But yeah. I would absolutely recommend this if you like Black Mirror, though, because I think there are some things that are in here that would be cool for fans of that. I think this is actually getting made into a show, maybe. Like, they're adapting, like, one of the stories or some of the stories. I think I remember reading something about it online, but yeah, you'll have to look that up because I'm not going to right now. I'm trying to get through this video. I read Cursed Objects, which is nonfiction, and I liked this. It was fine. I wish that this had had like actual pictures of the actual items, but it did have little illustrations of them, which I thought was really cool. I just would have wanted also pictures so that I could see the real thing, not have to Google it after every story and stop reading so that I could check my phone to Google it and see what it was. I read Children of Chicago, which is like a crime thriller, horror-y, fairy tale-esque sort of thing. It's really hard to narrow it down into like a single genre because it has like a lot going on. And I like this. You can really tell that the author really liked Chicago and like really loves a lot of stuff about the city. There were things that I learned about it that I didn't know. A lot of the reviews did mention that they didn't like how much Chicago was talked about, but like, what did you expect? Like, the book is, you know, like, it tells you what it is when you're going into it. Like, I don't know. I feel like somebody needs to like reset their expectations a little bit for that one because it delivered what it said it was going to deliver. I also read A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher, and this was my second book by the author, I think, and I really love the writing, and I really love this book. Like, this is so much fun. I really like the main character, and I like that their horror, like this particular author's horror, always has like this sort of slight comedic, sarcastic, like little element to it, kind of like Grady Hendrix, but not as silly, which Grady stuff sometimes gets a little bit silly, so this is not so silly, but it's still good. Yeah, but they like kind of remind me of each other in their writing, and I think a lot of people have called it like cozy horror and stuff for T. Kingfisher, and I think I would probably agree with that. Like, there are some really creepy things that happen, but overall it's not too scary, and there's like this overall element of like familiarity with the characters and with some of the situations, especially in this one for me. Yeah, difficult mother relationships just always get me in a book, so I read a bunch of thrillers. So I read Local Woman Missing, and I really liked this one. This was supposed to be like one of the twistiest thrillers. People kept saying like, this is so twisty, this is so twisty. And it was, but I feel like there were too many characters. Like, the whole book, I was like, why does this character exist? Why do I have to read their perspective? And by the end, I did figure it out and I understood, but for most of it, I was just like, I don't like this person. I don't like reading from them. Like, I don't want this character, you know? So yeah, overall, I think I gave it like 4 stars. So I did like it, but that one character bothered me. I read Any Man by Amber Tamblyn, and this is unique because it was kind of like the Me Too movement, but if it were happening with men as like the focus and as the people who were having bad things done to them. There's like a specific villain character who was going around doing these terrible things to men, and the story is told as if these men are coming forward in like the media and toward people and telling them about what's happening. And it's very interesting because the things that happen to these men, like the reception to them coming forward, is very, very accurate for what happens to women. And I think it kind of sucks because I don't think a lot of men will probably pick this up and read it, and I think they should. It's a pinkish book. Like, I don't know. I feel like that sucks. I think it should get like more attention. But that said, at the same time, it is pretty difficult to read. So practice caution and look up the content warnings if you need those, because there's some rough stuff in this and some weird gross stuff. So yeah. And also, the author of this is an actress. So, you know, Amber Tamblyn is like, she's in a lot of things, but the thing I always tell people first is like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and that's just because I love those movies and books. So yeah. Oh crap, another one I forgot. I read the first 3 volumes of Tokyo Ghoul, and I forgot to mention those before. I really like them. I will read more, I just don't have them. They're fun. I have never seen the show. If you think I should watch the show, you should tell me, and then maybe I will, but I have not. My boyfriend has actually seen like the first season or something, so when I talk about stuff that's happening in the books, he's like, oh yeah, I remember that from this. So he knows what I'm talking about, but yeah. Okay, so now we're getting into my like romance reads, because these are the things that I read through like February, and there are quite a few, so let's get into them. I read The Roommate, and this was okay. I found the main character to be very like privileged and entitled, and I don't really like that, so she really irked me. But it was like spicy, and that was fine, and like the main guy character was fine, and like overall there was this message of like self-acceptance and not being ashamed to like own your sexuality and like say what you want. So I think that was good, but just the main character bothered me. I didn't like her. So, and then I read 3 books for what is currently, I think, still my most popular video, and that was my monster fucking smut read-along reading. That was the smut monster, you know, yeah. If you want to watch that, you can, with my like actual reactions while I was reading these books, but let's just talk briefly about them. We have The Dragon's Bride, which should I just mention like what the kinks are for these, or no? No, I don't want to say too much, and I don't know what I can say on YouTube. So what I'm going to say is this one has a dragon, and the most important thing I think you need to know about this book and this dragon is that he has a long tongue. And he has 2 I'm literally blushing, and this happened throughout that entire vlog because I get so embarrassed. I'm such a nerd. Like, can you see my cheeks? This is so embarrassing. My eyes get watery too. I can't. I'm gonna have to stop doing this. Okay. I'm not even gonna say anything about the rest of these books. I'm just gonna tell you that all I'm gonna say about these is that they were fun to read, and I would recommend them. Yeah. If the first one, actually, the dragon one, I will say, if you have like an ick against like pregnancy or like being pregnant, you probably will not like a lot of the dirty talk in that one, because there were like some things that like that's not a thing for me, like that I am into. So I was, for part of the dirty talk, was just like, I would rather you didn't say that to me ever. Like, you know, there were just a couple of things that I personally as a person prefer to not hear during coitus, and I'm so sorry. I'm gonna move on. There were 3 books in that series that I read, and also recently a Gargoyle one came out, and I already have it because it's on Kindle Unlimited, so I will check in after I read that one in another video. I read Legends and Lattes, which is super cute. If you like coffee, and if you like fantasy, like D&D and stuff like that, I think you will like this one a lot. It's very cute. I loved seeing them build their little business and like discover different recipes for the drinks and the food and stuff. And my little favorite character was like the little baker rat guy. Like, I just loved him. And so it was really fun. I really loved it. And there's a second book, actually. I don't know if it's like a direct continuation or if it's something different, but just in the same world by the same author and the same vibe. But it has to do with like a bookshop, I think. So I'm very excited about that. And that should be coming out like maybe later this year or next year or something. I don't know. I have no idea. This video is not about when stuff comes out, but I want to read that. Then I read a YA romance, and that was Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. And I went into this not expecting to like it, and then I loved it. Like, I highlighted so many things. I tabbed a bunch of the book. Like, it was so cute. It was really, really cute. Like, they're nerds and they're just adorable. Like, it was really fun. It was like really, it was a really cute, like, feel-good thing, and I wish they would make like a Netflix thing of it. I think it'd make like a perfect little Netflix movie. Like, you know, in like the same vibe as like To All the Boys I Loved Before, like The Kissing Booth. I think they should make this into one of those. I would love it. I would watch it. So many kids would love it. It's so good. So good. Then I read A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I loved it. I am a big ACOTAR stan, apparently. I have listened to people talk about these books for years, and now I'm on the train. I am all aboard, and I am happy about it because I do not like to be left out. I have talked about this book in other videos, and I'm actually doing a reading vlog for the series, but it is broken up between me living in my old house and now. So it's chaotic as hell, but it will go up eventually. And until then, I have other videos where I've talked about reading the first book, and I love it. Like, it was so much fun. And I've heard the second book's even better, and I have it. Like, I don't know if you can see. It's like over here on the shelf somewhere. It's one of these books. So yeah, I'm very excited to finish the series. I probably won't finish the whole series before the end of this year, but we'll see. Miracles can happen. And then I read the first 3 books and then I reread the first 3 books in the Resident Evil book novelization series. And I've had these books since I was 15. I love them so much. Some of them are like completely made up, like not actually part of the video game series, but they're like featuring some of the same characters, and they're supposed to be canon, but they're kind of like loosely canon because the games were actually coming out at the same time that the books were being written. So some of the things don't line up exactly right, but for the most part, like, they're so good. And honestly, like, even besides the fact that they don't align completely perfectly, they're so entertaining and they're so good. And if you've played the games specifically, there are so many things that you will remember playing, like the puzzles and things like that. Like, and when the first time you see a liquor, like, it's so nostalgic for me to be rereading them, and I am loving my reread. Like, it's so fun. I love the books so much, and next to the Mass Effect books, I think this is my favorite video game novelization, and it's fantastic. If you're a Resident Evil fan, I definitely highly recommend them. I read an early copy of Dear Medusa, which is like a YA contemporary, I think, like told in verse, and this one deals with really heavy topics because it has to do with a girl who is being sexually abused by one of her teachers. And there are so many things in this that I really loved this book. Like, there were so many impactful moments in this and lines, because it's told in verse, that were like so eloquent, so articulate, that really, really encapsulated what it can feel like to be in that sort of situation, or even a situation that's like similar to that one at that age. I think more people should read this, especially like younger girls, because I feel like there are girls out there who could benefit from some of the things that are in this, like from knowing that they're not alone in their experiences, and that the things that they might be doing in reaction to what's happening to them are normal and are okay, even if they feel like it's bad of them. I don't know how to convey really what I'm saying about this. I just really liked it, and I thought it was very powerful. It made me cry like multiple times, and I don't have a physical copy yet. I'm not able to buy physical books right now, but when I am again, I'm definitely going to get it because I love this so much. Oh my god, are we almost done? I'm regretting everything about this. It's taking so long. My attention span has wavered like a million times. I've broken this into several videos. I keep having to turn it off because I'm like, oh, what's that? Let me check my phone. Let me do something else. Like, girl, just focus, please. Like, I swear, there's like a little me inside my head constantly just saying that to me all the time. Like, will you please just focus? Like, just focus and get the thing done. It would be done if you would just focus. And yet. Okay, so let's finish this. We're almost there. I read The Weight of Blood, which this is like a Carrie retelling, a more modern and diverse retelling that focuses on social acceptance and racism and small towns and white folks being shitty. And I loved it. I thought it was very fun. There were a lot of nods to other Stephen King books in this, so you can tell that the author of this one is a fan. And I thought that was really cool because I too love Stephen King books. I read Daisy Darker, and I disliked about the first 250 pages of this one, and I think it's like 300 to 350 pages, so I disliked most of it. But then the ending, like, there's a big twist in this book, and the ending blew me away. Like, it really sold me, and that made me like the rest of it a lot more. So if you read like the first 200 pages of this and were like, nah, I don't like it, DNF, I would maybe encourage you to try to finish it, but if you're like, no, I don't want to, then don't. It's fine. I don't care. Either way, I have no stake in this game, but I liked it, so yeah. I read House of Hunger, which I was very excited for. This is supposed to be about like a blood maiden who like lives in this house with this like lady who needs to drink blood and bathe in blood and all kinds of shit with blood. It wasn't as dark or as bloody as I wanted it to be, despite that. I feel like it could have been darker. I feel like for most of this, I was expecting something to happen that would have been like a very like stunning reveal, and then that didn't happen. And that maybe that's just my expectations. Like, obviously I'm not the writer of the book, so there are things that I would do that somebody else would not, and vice versa. And that's the case, like, whether you're a writer or reader or whatever. But I would have just liked that more, or something more along that line, because it would have made it darker. And as it stands, it was not dark enough for me. Like, I don't know, I sound like such a little edgelord. Like, it wasn't dark enough for me. Who am I? This is stupid, but it is what it is. And I really just feel like it wasn't dark enough for me. I'm sorry. I read The Resting Place, which is my second book by this author. Didn't really like the first one or the way they handled mental illness. And then I did not like this one. So I'm probably not going to read anything else by them. Like, what's weird too is with this one, it's just with both of them, honestly, the more I think about them, I'm like, I finished the books and I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And then the more I think, I'm like, no, like, I just like it less and less the more I think about it. And sometimes when you think about a book after, you're like, you love it more and more. So if I know that's possible, me liking it less and less really makes me like it less and less. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend, don't like it, and I'm not going to read anymore by the author. Like, I'm gonna read, but not by the author. I'm not gonna read anymore by that person. I read The Last Housewife, and actually I didn't mention it, but the couple of books I'm talking about right now, these were all part of one vlog that I've already posted. So if you want to hear me talk about them more, you can go watch that vlog. It was like reading recent thriller and horror books, I think, something like that. It was like a couple videos. This was not that long ago, but yeah, I liked this one. This is about a sex cult, and it was very fun, but like convenient. There were a lot of things that happened that I was like, that was convenient that you just got out of that so easily. Like, the stakes didn't seem really high because you just easily get out of everything, you know? But it was very fast paced and I did like it. So, and that cover, honestly, this cover is stunning. Worth it alone just for that cover to have that on my shelf because it's beautiful. I mean, I don't have a shelf right now, but you know what I mean? Then I read Verity, which was, I believe, my first Colleen Hoover book, and I still don't know how I feel about her writing because I don't know what the fuck this book was. Like, this was in the romance section, and I don't understand who shelved it as such, because this was wild. Like, this felt like a Lifetime movie, no joke. Like, this is something my mom would have watched when I was a kid, and I would have been like, what the fuck are you watching? Like, what is going on here? Yeah, so that's all I'm gonna say about this one. This video is really going off the rails right now, and I'm sorry, but I did not expect this to take so long. And I regret everything. I regret reading this many books. I regret deciding to do this video. I regret sitting here on the floor where my butt is now getting numb and my foot is asleep. I regret doing this in a hotel room because there are people out there talking over and over again. The dogs don't like it. I don't like it. We are so close. We can do this. We've got this. We've got this. Okay, so next, I did a reading vlog for sci-fi horror books, and you can go watch that if you want to hear me talk about the next few books in depth. But for now, to get through this, I'm just gonna list them and say whether or not I liked them. I read Ship of Fools, and this one focused too much on mutiny and not enough on scary space shit. Dead Space. This had nothing to do with the video game, and I knew that going into it, but I disliked the book so much for what it was that I just kept thinking, God, I wish this was about the video game instead. We've been interrupted by a chunky visitor. Hey, he's got his little outfit on because he went out for a ride earlier. Conceal, don't feel, Cloud. Put those chins. Cloud, what'd you read this year? Hey, buddy. Did you read any good books this year? Oh, he's falling asleep. Get away from me. Goodbye, Bubby. I love you. Where were we? Okay, so by the same author as Dead Space, a book that I did not like, I read Salvation Day, which I loved. This was about like a cult in space and some weird shit that happened on a ship like years before. It was so cool. It was spooky. It was weird. I didn't know what was going on for most of it because I was just like, who, what, when, where, why, how, what? I really liked it though. If you like sci-fi horror, I would definitely recommend this one. Come on, I can't pet you through the whole video, friend. What's going on? Every time I stop petting him, he starts like huffing at me and I have to stop the video so that I can continue. All right, and then also for the sci-fi horror vlog, I read The Last Astronaut, which I think this should be made into a movie. I think there is a movie called The Last Astronaut, but it's not based on this book that I believe, because it was different. And this deserves a movie because it was really interesting. I really liked it. I think there are so many parts of this book that would look incredible with like special effects on screen. Just fantastic. Like, definitely recommend this. This wasn't very scary, but it's definitely sci-fi, like super sci-fi. This would be so good if you like movies like Alien. So yeah, definitely read this one. It's good. All right, we're almost done. We have like 10 books left. Yes. So then I tried to read The Salt Grows Heavy. This was an early copy sent by the publisher, and the copy was problemed. Like, it was flawed. It was missing pages. It was missing chunks of text. It was cloud. It was like, I couldn't even read it because it was missing so many portions of the book. Like, I don't know what happened in the printing process, but it was messed up. And so I couldn't actually read this, but I tried. I read what I could, so I counted it. Then I read Never Let Me Go, and I have had this on my TBR for years, and I was extremely underwhelmed. I know I'm in the minority with that, but I expected so much more. Like, I mean, it had like an atmosphere and a vibe. Like, it was very specifically a thing, like a moment, like a choice, but it was just slow, and it wasn't as impactful as I thought it was going to be based on how many people have loved it and have been like wowed by it. I don't know if my expectations were too high or what happened there, but it just didn't do it for me. Like, it was all right. I don't know. It's won some pretty big awards, so I guess it's just me. I don't know. But I mean, it's not even like, I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was bad. I just was underwhelmed and I expected more. I read The Only Survivors, which is Megan Miranda's, I think, newest book. And I liked this one. It was okay. It was just basic, you know? And I mean, I liked it more than I liked a couple of her last books. I did not like those. I don't know why I keep picking up her books. I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. But they were all right. It was all right. I've talked about it in my hotel reading vlog, which is just like a video or two ago. So if you want to hear more about what I thought, go check that out. It was nothing to like write home to mom about or whatever that saying is. It was just basic. It was fine. We have a Charmed novelization book, and this actually, I don't think this one's actually based on like any specific episode. I think this is just like a standalone thing, but it's written by people who worked on the show. So I don't know if maybe they had some plots that they couldn't actually make on the show, so they were like, well, we'll do the next best thing and we will write them into books. But this was fun. I mean, it had Prue, so it was supposed to be like early on in the show. It's not like after, you know, Paige and everything. So it was fine. The dialogue was a little bit weird, and I think it was honestly, like, if this had been an episode, it probably would not have been that entertaining. So maybe that's why they made it into the book instead of an actual episode, but it was fine. And it kept me company for like an hour while I was reading it because it's very small. And my boyfriend was in the shower, so like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I don't know. It was fine. I read I Saw You That Night by R.L. Stine. And I was actually going to do a 24-hour reading vlog in like one of the other places we were staying in like a while back, but we had a bad experience on that trip with like a potential house we were supposed to be looking at, and that kind of like ruined the day and my mood and everything, and like I just got like into a pretty bad funk, so I never actually finished that. I deleted all the footage from it, but I did read this book and I logged it in Goodreads. So yeah, this was silly and dumb and fun and just ridiculous. It was a good summer book if you want something like silly to read that's like kind of like old and nostalgic, but it wasn't a very good book. No offense to our Lord and Savior R.L. Stine, but it just was not very good. And then now we are caught up to the most recent book that I've actually finished, and that is The Merry Dredgers. And I finished this a day ago during a reading vlog that I'm actually filming in this hotel room. So I really liked this one. It's set in like an amusement park and has to do with like a cult and like these two sisters and one trying to solve the mystery of what happened to the other one. And it's like very ethereal and like dreamlike and creepy, and it was really inspiring to me in the sense of like the descriptions and stuff. It really made me want to draw like creepy amusement parks and like goblins and things like that. So I really loved that about it. And just the writing by the author. I've read other books that they've written before, and I always love like their choice of writing and their choice of like describing things. And the characters are always like entertaining enough to read. So I would recommend this one. It did recently come out, so I don't see a lot of people talking about it yet, but I think they should. Like, I think you should pick it up. It was pretty good. I gave it 4.5 stars, so yeah. My laptop is closed. We're done. That was the last book that I read so far up till now, the middle of May, aka the middle of the year. Not quite, but almost. So According to Goodreads, again, 92 books. I'm pretty sure I got them all, but I was just trying to get through this. So if I skipped one on that list, don't tell me about it. It's fine. Whatever. We're going to be pretty chill and lenient about it. If you've hung out with me through this whole video, thank you so much. I know I kind of lost steam a little bit along the way, and that is why I do not do longer videos, because my ADHD makes it very difficult for me to do things like this. So yeah, if you can relate, let me know. Otherwise, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I would love to know what you've read this year. You don't have to give me a full list if it's also like 92 books, but if you have like a video wrap up or anything like that, or if there are like some specific books that you've given really high ratings and would recommend to me that I did not read, definitely let me know that, because I would love to add to my already growing list. Okay, so thank you so much for hanging out with me. It has been a blast. All right, so thank you for hanging out with me. I will see you in my next video. Bye.